Hey friends, I thought in this first video of 2025, we could talk a little bit about goal setting. I hope you have a comfortable spot and maybe it's something yummy to sip on while we chat in this first video of 2025.
Are we there yet?
So it has been a little bit. If you have been watching the videos on our channel for a while, you know we started this channel in 2020. And then from 2020 to 2022, we recorded pretty consistently videos about our homeschooling journey and our travel. And I would just share life things with you. And in 2022, midway through the year, we moved to Georgia. And since we've been in Georgia, life has just been crazy and we've had a lot of transitions. And so I had to take a step back to kind of gather myself. And this past year of 2024 has been really rough for us. But I feel like things are hopefully settling down. We're getting more settled in Georgia. We're kind of getting more of a clearer idea of direction, which is what we're going to be talking about in this video. And I also included a link to our blog. If you haven't checked it out, I kind of put everything that I put in videos written down on our blog, and there are local events on there and just kind of a lot of information, things that I run across that I'd like to share for other parents who may want that information. And so I am putting a link to the blog post that I published this week, the first week of January, about goal setting and how you can get your family involved in that, and just some perspective from my end on how I've done goal setting. I've just always been very goal oriented, and just, I don't know, that's just something that's always kind of fed my soul, is just setting a goal and meeting that goal, probably because I'm a type A personality and that's just how it is. But this year, after having a really rocky year and we've had a lot of illness and health things, my goals for 2025 look very different. They are not goals of things that I want to accomplish. I don't have this long list of stuff that I want to accomplish by the end of 2025. My biggest thing this year is just to find peace and rest, because I feel like since we've moved, we've just kind of been on the go so much that we really haven't been able to enjoy this move and enjoy our family as much, because we're trying to get settled in. We're just doing all this stuff. And so this year, that was my main focus when I sat down to think about this, is how can we focus more on rest and just time together. And so I'm going to go through this just like I did in the blog post, setting personal goals for yourself, setting goals with your family, and then setting goals with your kids. So we're going to start with personal goals. This is goals for you individually, aside from your family. And I like to divide that into 3 different categories. So I have just goals that for me, myself, that I want to do for the year. So this is stuff that kind of helps me, takes care of me, stuff that revives me. And then I have the next one, which is goals for my spiritual goals, my walk with Christ. And then I have goals for my life and career. So for my personal goals, I try to look at what things am I interested in, or what things might I want to try and accomplish. Maybe that for you is like you want to get into hiking, or you want to try needlepoint, or maybe you just really enjoy jogging. I am not that person, but some people that just feeds their soul to like jog every morning. I'm not that person. If I'm running, run to because something's chasing me. Like, I just don't enjoy running at all. And so for this year, for me, I put down for personal that I just wanted to spend more rest time. I want to have more days that we're at home and we're just resting as a family than we're out doing things. And when I say rest, I don't mean idleness. This isn't sitting on the couch and just like watching TV shows. It's playing games as a family, or just talking as a family, or going on a walk. For me, decorating is just therapy to me. I know that may sound weird, but I'm a creative person. I love to create. So just having time to play around on my Cricut and make different things, or decorate our house, because we're still in the process of painting and decorating and getting settled in there. Those are the things that I'd like to focus on. Maybe taking a dance class. That's something else that I like to do. And I have a subscription where I can take classes online, so I don't have to leave home. So if I have some extra time, I could just jump in and take a class. But just having time at home just to kind of decompress and relax. I've told my husband that I want to find that 90s homeschool mom vibe where you were just at home, you didn't have the cell phone with you everywhere, you weren't constantly getting emails, you weren't constantly running around to different activities, you just kind of like existed, and it was so chill. And that's honestly what I would love to find, because I've just felt like the last 2 years we've just been like, I don't know, going every which way, and I want to change that. And so that's my first thing that I have written down under my personal goals. Kind of along those same lines is just being more intentional about the things that we do. I am a yes woman. I try to, if somebody asks me to do something, like even before I think through, like, is this something that I should be doing? I'm like, yeah, I can do it. Like, I'll make it work. And I'm trying really hard not to be a yes woman, and to like really put a lot of prayer and thought into the things that I do and be intentional about it. I feel like busyness is kind of a way that Satan pulls us away from the things that God has for us. And I feel like definitely in this last season of life, that was a big thing that I was blinded to, is that a lot of times we think by filling our time with stuff, we're accomplishing things, but a lot of times we're accomplishing the wrong things. We're accomplishing the things we want to accomplish instead of the things that God is maybe leading us to accomplish. And that's something I want to be more intentional about, is not just doing stuff, but is this what God's calling me to do in this season, in this time? Is this going to be pouring into God's kingdom, or am I trying to just build something on my own? And so that kind of goes along with having more rest, right? The Lord tells us to be still sometimes. I was reading in Luke when Jesus was tempted and how he went into the wilderness, right? And then Satan came in and was like, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Why don't you do this? That stuck out to me, because it's like we are abiding in God's rest sometimes, and the Lord is telling us to be still. And I feel like for me in this season, God's like, okay, be still. And we oftentimes feel comfortable being still, because let's be real, in today's world, the more you do, the more notoriety you get, the more people applaud you. Being still isn't something that people really are going to applaud you for. And selfishly, sometimes we want to have those accomplishments, especially if you're like me, type A personality overachiever, you want the accomplishments. And so Satan will use that to kind of deceive you into thinking, well, you've been still long enough, now go do all these things, so you'll sign your kids up for every activity, you'll be a part of a Bible study, you'll be helping a friend out, you'll, take on more at work or whatnot, or do some kind of side hustle, and then wonder why you're so stressed out. And it's because you have put all of these things onto your plate. And I'm preaching to the choir. This is like my big thing for myself this year. But you put all these things onto your plate, and then you're like, why am I so stressed out? Why do I feel like, I'm not doing what the Lord wants me to do? Well, because you've just, onloaded all these things that really are just, busy. It's like busy work. It's not stuff that leads to a purpose. It's stuff that you just use to fill time. And so that's my second thing, that I really want to be intentional about the things that I commit to, that it's something that I feel like is leading me into the purpose that I have in life, not something that's just filling up time. And then the third thing for personal is just to limit my social media and media in general intake, because I feel like for me, because I am an overachiever, I'll see like all of this good stuff and I feel like I have to do all the good stuff. And it's hard for me to say I can't do something, especially if it's something my kids want to do. I'll often just try to squeeze it in. But the reality of it is sometimes, you don't have to do the thing, that cute little activity that you saw on Instagram, you don't have to do it, or on TikTok, you don't have to do everything. And so I'm going to try to be more intentional about limiting the media that I consume, really making sure that it's something that is pouring into me instead of taking out of me. I hadn't planned on recording this video, so I have like a makeshift like tripod here that I'm trying to hold this on, so I have to keep stopping the video to adjust it. But okay, so the next thing is your spiritual goals. And I like to do this one because I always want to look back and hopefully be further ahead spiritually than I was the year before. And so this year, I have two goals in this category. The first one is to create a quiet space in my closet that can kind of be a space for prayer and meditation, where I can jot down prayers and put them on the wall, and jot down Bible verses that have helped me through things, and put it on the wall, so that hopefully at the end of 2025, beginning of 2026, I can, look through that. My second thing that I wrote down is being more intentional with actually living out my faith, so that people can see God's good work in me. And I've been thinking about this for the last few months, ways that I can serve better, that I can just be more in tuned to the things that are happening around me, and how I can show God's light in those situations. Because I think oftentimes I feel like I am distracted and I'm not necessarily in tune with areas that I could serve or maybe pray with someone about. And I really want to live out my citizenship, in God's kingdom. And that is something that has really been heavy on me for a few years now, is that I am not a citizen of the United States. I am not a citizen of anything here in the world. I am a citizen of heaven. And so when people come in contact with me, they should see that through my actions, through my words, just as people can see your citizenship here on earth, through the language you speak, or how you speak, or the food you eat, or the things that you do generally tell the area of the world or the country that you're from. And that's something that I was meditating on this past week, is I want people to see that I'm a part of God's kingdom in my everyday interactions better than maybe they could before. Not saying like I was doing anything mean or awful, but I just don't feel like I have necessarily been putting intentionality, that's not a word, putting like an emphasis on it. There we go. I just butchered that word, and I was not even going to attempt it again. I'm kind of tired. It's evening time, but you know what I mean. Like, I wasn't being intentional about really living out my faith in day-to-day things. And so that is something that I definitely want to spend more time doing, not having my phone in my hand when I'm out running errands, because I am an introvert, and oftentimes when I'm in situations where I'm waiting in a waiting room or I'm waiting in line, my automatic response is to pick up the phone so that nobody talks to me and just start scrolling on it. And I just have to get over that and realize that every opportunity that I'm walking around, I have the chance to bless someone and minister to them, and that is my calling. And I can't try to weasel my way out of that because I don't want to talk to people. The next category is life and career. Now, I realize that not everybody is working. I have worked many years, but usually part-time, but I have stayed at home as well. So that's why I have life/career, because if you don't have a career outside the home, then most of these things will fall under the category of just life, right? So for this, you want to think of what are things that you want to accomplish either in your career or just in life in general. This could be like, I want to buy a house. I want to, we need a new car. I want to save for a new car. I want to save money just for the future. Or I'm trying to think of other goals. I want our homestead to be more self-sustaining, or, whatever you want to accomplish. Or maybe if we're talking about a career, I want a more flexible job that works more with my family schedule. I want to work my way up to this position because I think it would be better for me. So in this category, just listing the things that you want to see in the next year. So for me, for goals, I am working right now, but I'm not sure what the future will hold. My career isn't my main focus right now. It's my family. And so I did goals that were more centered around my home versus outside my home and growing a career. So under this category, I wrote 3 things. The first thing is to make our house a home. We have 0 pictures hanging up in our house right now. And so it's my goal to kind of get us more settled in, get the pictures on the wall, and just make our space feel more like our space since we've been there for a couple of years. The second thing I have on my goals for life and career is to spend more time in my garden. Really, I would love to have a full garden that we could just grow all our produce in and we wouldn't have to go to the grocery store anymore because A, it's healthier. We've had a lot of health issues this last year, and I think that would help with some of those health concerns. And then the other reason, just because financially it will be a lot easier if we can just grow our own food. And then I also want to work on our outdoor living space so that we have spaces to host and to gather. Alan and I really feel like community is our ministry, and so we want to create an outdoor space where we could have dinners and Bible studies and just a space for people to meet together and grow together. And so that's something I'd like to pour a lot of energy into. The third thing I have under a life and career is creating an environment of peace and rest in my house. As I said, with my personal goals, we have been so busy that our home has not been an environment of peace and rest for multiple different reasons. So those are the personal goals. The next thing I want to chat about is setting goals with your kids. This is something that I've enjoyed doing with our kids. We actually did a goal sheet, and that is linked in the blog, at the beginning of this school year, and a few of my kids actually reached those goals already, and we're halfway through the school year. We usually sit down and we have a family meeting in December, and then again in like May, June-ish, just to kind of touch base with how things are going, and we go over our goals and how we're progressing on them. And so did a goals worksheet back at the beginning of the school year, but I had my kids do a vision board for the new year. And this will look different just depending on your kids' ages. I think the vision board is great for younger kids where they can cut out magazine cutouts or maybe do stickers or color pictures of things that they would like to accomplish. Some of my kids put words or Bible verses that they wanted to remember to help inspire them as they met their goals. Last year we did a goals worksheet, which I did include that in the blog as well, that you can download completely free. That I typed up just to help them kind of like write down their goals and just as a reminder. And it helps too when we sit down and we do our family check-in twice a year to have those goals there, because none of us can remember, what everyone's written down. So it helps to have it already written down. But as we sit down and we talk about goals, I also try to emphasize to my kids how it's perfectly fine to have big goals. Like on their goal sheet from the beginning of this year, they wrote their short term and not the beginning of the year, but the beginning of like our school year, which was September. They wrote their short term and they wrote their long term goals. And I explained to them that oftentimes those big goals can seem unattainable if you don't kind of break it down into smaller steps to meet that goal in little bite-sized chunks. So in the goals sheet on the blog, you'll see that there's the goal and there's the steps to meet that goal. I think that's important to emphasize to kids, but also to ourselves as we set these goals, because we all know like New Year's resolutions, right? People will say, I'm going to lose like 100 pounds this year. I'm going to, be millionaire by the end of the year. And then what happens? Usually the end of January, February, people fall off the bandwagon because there's no real plan. So I encourage my kids not to just have a broad goal, right? Like I want to do this thing, right? That's fine, but then how are you going to accomplish that? What steps are you going to take to accomplish that? Right? You might set a big goal for yourself, like for me, peace and rest. How am I going to make that happen? Well, I'm going to set reminders on my phone. I'm going to make some weeks Sabbath weeks where we just don't do anything. Nothing is scheduled. It's just a rest week. And having those tangible steps that you can take makes the goal seem a little more attainable. I think when it comes to goals too, sometimes kids have a hard time thinking, especially depending on their ages, well, what goals do I have? I don't know. And just bringing up things like, what habits do you think that you could build that would be positive habits? Or what things did you do this year that you thought were really good? And what things did you do this year that you feel like you could improve on? Those are great questions to get them thinking about what goals they would like to set for themselves. The other thing is pursuing interest, right? Ask them to think about things they're interested in. Are they interested in art? Are they interested in sports? Are you interested in science? Well, what are some goals or what are some things that you might want to do that are centered around those things? That's another good prompt to kind of help them think of goals if they're struggling thinking of the things that they want to attain. Now, generally, when we do our goal sheets, we put them in our binders. I actually have a life binder. It holds all of our schedules, my personal schedule, our homeschool schedule, schedules for different activities, as well as goals for our homeschooling, and then my own personal yearly goals. My kids have a binder as well, and that's where they put their goals in so that we can revisit them during those 2 family check-ins a year. But maybe putting it on your child's mirror is a good place for them to put their vision board or goal. The vision boards that we created this week, I was going to have my kids hang on the back of their door, just as a reminder of the things that they want to attain this year. Or maybe you could have them put it on the bulletin board if you're a homeschool family in your school space. So just having that up somewhere is a great idea, not only for your kids, but for yourself, so that you don't lose focus of what you're working towards and what you're moving towards this upcoming year. All right, the last thing I'd like to chat about is your family goals. So you've set goals for yourself personally, things that you would like to achieve this year. You've helped your kids kind of think through some things that they would like to achieve. And then it's always great to have things that you would like to achieve as a family. Now, my husband and I did my personal goals today. I sat down and thought about that. I've been thinking about it through the week, but I sat down and wrote it down today. My husband and I will talk about the goals that we have for our family together tomorrow. And then at some point this weekend, we'll kind of sit down with the kids and we'll do a rundown of the goals that we've come up with and get their feedback of anything that they think we should probably add to the list. But I would really encourage you to not only just check in at the beginning of the year and set goals as a family, but make that kind of like a regular thing. That has really helped us. We've tried to implement on Fridays a time where we just kind of sit in and check with each other. Like, how did the week go? What were you really excited about? What made you really sad? Is there something that you're scared or anxious about? What has God spoke to you this week? Just kind of to touch base with everybody, because sometimes, especially if you are like we were, where you're busy every day and you're kind of missing each other, you don't really get the opportunity to check in with each other. And so this is a great time to ask your kids questions, which we did this with our kids a few weeks ago. What do you think is going really well? What do you feel like we can improve on? What do you think I'm doing well? What do you think your dad's doing well? What do you think I can improve on? What do you think your dad can improve on? What do you think people would say about our family dynamic if they saw us? Like, what do you think our family says? And this was a great time for us to just discuss and even things that maybe our kids wouldn't feel comfortable just coming to us out of the blue with. It kind of opens the door for your kids to have open, honest communication with you, which is important in any relationship. And so that was a really nice time for us just to really check in and see what the kids were feeling. And for me, there were some things that my kids brought up that I need to work on that I am trying to be more intentional about. And the same thing with my husband, because I check in with him as well. Like, what can I do better? Or what, we have that open communication as well. And I think that is great to implement during that family time. In fact, something that I was surprised when we sat down and we were discussing this for our family goals, my kids shared with me that they didn't want to do so much stuff. And to be honest with you, I felt like I was letting them down when about 2 months ago, I decided I just have to slow down because of health reasons. And I feel like that's what God's calling me to do right now. And I was so worried about letting them down and them being sad about it. And they were like, no, we don't want to be gone all the time. We don't want to do so much stuff. We don't want to do a homeschool co-op. And that was really surprising for me because I thought that they wanted to do all those things. And I thought, oh my gosh, they're going to be so upset that we can't do all those things. So it's great to just check in, because sometimes what you're feeling, the other people in your family might be feeling as well. Also, creating family traditions, things that you are going to be committed to that are important to your family. And if you haven't done it yet, have a family mission statement or a family word. This is going to help you stay focused on what is important to your family. So say your family, well, I'll just give you our family's mission statement is just to serve Christ and serve other people with excellence. Like that is just like what we want to do as a family. And so as we're making decisions, and obviously this doesn't always happen because I feel like we have not been living that out necessarily the last, couple of years. But as we're making decisions to reflect back on that, is this thing, whatever, fill in the blank, serving the Lord, loving people, and are we doing it with excellence, or are we just kind of skirting by? And so if you haven't come up with a family mission statement or a word, maybe your word is inspire, you just want to inspire people, and impact. I can't remember exactly how we worded the mission statement right off the top of my head. Apologies. My brain is tired right now. But we had impact in there to impact the world around us, right? But say your word is impact. We'll just use that word, that you want to impact the world around us. Are the things that you're pouring your time and energy into as a family impacting the world around you in a positive way? And if your word is impact and you are running around every evening and you don't even have time to touch base with anybody to impact them in a positive way, then it's probably time to offload some things, and so I would encourage you as well, when you're sitting down and you're doing goals as a family, to kind of come up with a word or a mission statement. What is our family all about? What is important to us? What are our family values? And then really lean into that. Even when you are creating traditions, things that you are going to do year after year, those are going to be the solid things in your family that you don't want to push out with other things. So as we end this video, the first one of 2025, I'd like to give you just a few little tips as you are setting these goals for the year. The first one is to set realistic goals. Just look at what you think could be attainable and tackle those things this year. The second thing is to celebrate progress. I think the big thing with setting goals and resolutions is people often get so discouraged when they don't meet those goals or resolutions. And, I am a big believer, and I tell my kids this too. I am more concerned with progress than perfection. So if you're progressing in your goals, that's fantastic. You do not have to be meeting your goals perfectly. In fact, if you got to the end of 2024 and you were like, I met 0 of my goals, you may be inclined to feel discouraged, like, I didn't do anything. But look at the progress you made. What progress did you make with those goals? Not, how did you attain them perfectly, but did you make any progress towards those goals? And if you did, that's something to celebrate. Even at the end of 2025, if you get to the end of 2025 and everything you wrote down, nothing you were able to accomplish, look at the progress. That's why I love writing the steps down to your goals, because you have actionable steps that maybe you just checked off the very first step this year. That is a-okay because you are progressing, and that is the most important thing with meeting your goals. I think in life and education, I tell my kids that it's not about perfection, it's about progress. It's about moving forward and being better next year than you were last year. That's the big thing. It isn't about meeting all the goals, which I know, it's hard too nowadays because that's what's celebrated, right? On social media, like, I met all my goals, or I started this business and now I make 6 figures. Those are the things that are the big things. But progress, I feel like, is equally as good as completely meeting those goals. So I would encourage you that if you get to, say, May or June, and one of the things that you wrote down, or your kids wrote down, or your family wrote down is just not something that is attainable, or not something that's working, or not something that you really want anymore, cross it off the list. It's not something that you want to pursue so much that, it's just taking the joy out of the journey. So friends, I am hoping that in this new year, I will be able to consistently connect with you and share our journey and share some tips and share some life and do some chats like this, because I truly do enjoy connecting with homeschooling families, but any parents that are just trying to plug away at the road of life. And so hopefully we will connect more this year as life settles down. Fingers crossed. I keep saying life is going to settle down. It never does. I need to stop saying that and come up with a new phrase, like as life plugs along, because let's be real, it probably isn't going to settle down, but hopefully we will have time to connect, because it is so absolutely wonderful to just enjoy this road of life with you all. And so I just want to say Happy New Year, and I hope that this year and all of your goals are just beyond what you expect. See you later.